Hello and welcome to my video on anxiety. Anxiety I'm going to discuss with you today from a personal perspective that impacted me and my lifestyle and for quite a few number of years. Indeed, it was a hijack moment where my condition mentally and physically was seemingly hijacked by anxiety and its various causes. Anxiety is a common theme amongst the vast majority of us, unfortunately. And it's when at the lower ends of anxiety I'm referring to now. So I'm not referring to high levels, moderate levels of anxiety. I'm referring to the lower levels of anxiety. Anxiety is a concept that takes hold of us, and when it takes hold of us, it does its best to handicap both our psychological thinking and our physiological thinking. In fact, the two can operate in tandem, because obviously if I'm worried about the physiological aspects within my body, for example, why my heart is racing, why my legs are shaking, if I'm thinking negatively about that, the likelihood is the physiology of it will get worse. Likewise, if the physiology is bad as well, I'm now mentally scarred and I'm mentally thinking as to why this anxiety is taking hold of me and will there be an end. I'm referring to this anxiety that I used to go through in the aspect of how it took hold of me, and it used to handicap me so much that if when I came from work, I would initially just want to go upstairs, lie down, switch off to the world, and not want to do anything because I was physically exhausted, mentally I was exhausted. So the question being, what happened next? Why did it happen? There's always triggers that cause anxiety. And my anxiety reference is made to after losing my mother. So bereavement was where I had lots of negative anxiety, negative thoughts, negative feelings. Everything was negative. Nothing was positive. And this carried on for a good few years. Hands would shake, legs would shake, heart would race. And on the few rare occasions, there were panic attacks, which then, is a whole toxic negative release where you think something's about to happen to you. Okay. In reference to how did I overcome it? Now, let me be clear. Anxiety is not something you totally overcome. In a situation within sports performance, for instance, you might be anxious taking a penalty kick, but once that penalty kick has been taken, that anxiety goes, whether you score or you don't score. That sort of particular moment anxiety is gone. This form of anxiety that I'm referring to, the personal anxiety, and remember, I had it because of bereavement. People can have it through divorce, mortgages, repossession. We're talking that sort of aspect. It's still there, but there's ways to overcome so you can control it through the rubric of emotional intelligence. For instance, you can teach yourself self-awareness and self-regulatory strategies. So self-awareness is about writing a journal, understanding things that go well, looking at things that don't go well. And sometimes if I get the lower ends of anxiety now, even though I think I've fairly much overcome the worst aspects of it, I will sometimes make a reference to go back to where I was when it was really, really bad. For me, faith was a big deal in it. I'm very, very religious as a Sikh, and I think faith gave me that, but faith isn't for everybody. And so the couple of things I will describe here are done. So if one thing doesn't work, you can try another thing. Deep breathing, I find very fascinating, and I felt that gave me the capacity to breathe and to release the tightness that I would accumulate in the chest and in my stomach regions, and that would help. The aspect of listening to music, and I appreciate when you're anxious, last thing you want to do is listen to music. But if you can listen to sort of smooth, calming music, that's vital. Other aspects, apart from journal writing, in terms of self-regulatory aspects, was the aspect of setting myself goals. So I had a focus and direction, and referring to reference points where I would each day discuss 3 positive things that may have occurred for me, and also positive self-talk. So instead of I can't do this to I will do this, I think I will fail this to I will achieve this. Now, don't get me wrong, when you're going through anxiety, your mind plays tricks with you. And what we have to do, and the sort of essence of this video, is what I call flip anxiety. You've got to not fear anxiety. Anxiety has to fear you. Now, that is not easy. And if I said this 3 years ago or 2 years ago, or somebody had told me that, I wouldn't have believed them. But what you have to accept is patience. And hopefully, if you're going through the same now, in a few years, you might think about this flip anxiety. Flip anxiety, a reference point made, is where you don't fear anxiety. And once you start managing your anxiety, in other words, you start overcoming it, the handicap of what it does to you disappears, then you will have beaten the anxiety as best as you can, because you've taught yourself management strategies on overcoming anxiety. So you need to flip it and get anxiety to fear you so it doesn't attack you, and not the other way around where you fear anxiety. And that's one of the other tricks we have to utilize, and that is we have to utilize tricks, because anxiety itself is a trick. It's there to trick you to say something's wrong when it's not. So I hope you find most of this video useful. Do look into deep breathing, listening to music, positive self-talk, setting goals, and try and get some positivity. And if need be, do it on the metaphor of baby steps, 1 step at a time. You don't have to take too many, because if you write too many goals and you don't achieve them, that will only increase the anxiety. So it's taking small baby steps. All of you will be in a different state of mind when it comes to anxiety. Some will be high, some will be moderate, some will be lower. But I will suggest that whilst I've made this video, the reasoning of anxiety and how you tackle anxiety can help by having professional help. So going to counseling, going to your GP, psychiatrist, if you need that, because their sort of assurances itself can help as well. So thank you for listening. I hope you found this video useful. Be free and be happy for comments that you might want to make. And I hope you utilize the flip anxiety metaphor as best as you can. And thank you for watching. Goodbye.